Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Dr. Nikki Davis with Lifestyle Telemedicine, and I am so excited to be talking with one of our new doctors at Lifestyle Telemedicine, Dr. Anthony Lim. Thank you for being here today, Anthony.
Thanks, Nikki. It's great to be here. So excited
Yeah,
to do this with you.
yeah, thank you. So today is really a way for us to just kind of get to know you and a little bit about your background and kind of what got you working with us at Lifestyle Telemedicine and, a little bit about kind of how you practice medicine. So first of all, I'm just going to let everybody know a little bit about you before we start. So Dr. Lim, Dr. Anthony Lim, is a board certified family physician with a special interest in whole food, plant-based nutrition. He is a Stanford graduate. He also holds a law degree from Harvard Law School and a medical degree from Boston University School of Medicine. So he's done even more school than I have. He has served as medical director of the McDougall Program and as a staff physician at TrueNorth Health Center in Santa Rosa, California. And he believes that true healing begins with body, mind, and spirit when they are aligned, and that caring for the whole person rather than just isolated symptoms is essential to lasting transformation. So again, welcome to the show, Dr. Lim. We are so excited to be talking with you today.
Thank you, Nikki. Great to be here.
All right. Well, Dr. Lim, why don't you start out by telling us a little bit about your background? What got you into medicine initially?
Wow. Well, it's interesting. I took a kind of a curvilinear route to medicine. I grew up in a family of physicians. My father is an OB-GYN. My brother is a surgeon. My uncle is a nephrologist. My aunt is a pediatrician. Uh, my cousin's an internist, so just kind of grew up in medicine. And I was actually pre-med at Stanford, so was planning to go straight to med school. But I realized that I was sort of doing it as the default path because that's all I knew. And so I actually kind of took a departure from my pre-med after graduating and worked for a year at Bain& Company, which is management consulting, and then went to law school. And in between my second and third year of law school, I taught 5th through 8th grade math for a year through AmeriCorps. So I was exploring teaching as well. I went to China for a year and studied Mandarin. So I just kind of like got all this stuff out of my system, thinking like, oh, is this a possible route? Is this a possible route? And at the end of the day, I came full circle back to thinking, you know what? Medicine really is, I think, the right path for me. I'm really motivated by the idea of healing and just bringing people back to wholeness. And so with that kind of clarity in my final year of law school, I was applying to medical school at the same time, and I went to BU School of Medicine, and the rest is history. It's been a great fit. I haven't looked back.
Yeah, well, that takes a lot of dedication to go through and I know this from just experience, to go through so much schooling and then to change your path and go do a lot more schooling.
Yeah, it's not a path I particularly recommend.
I would say the same thing.
Yeah, I do a lot of sort of mentoring, to young people, and I definitely have not told anyone. I think you should get multiple degrees. but it was my path, and looking back on it all, I'm sort of seeing how it all kind of fits together. Believe it or not, I actually use a lot of the things I learned from law school. Especially my focus was mediation and alternative dispute resolution, and whether it's mediating disputes in my own family or in some of my work settings. I definitely appreciate that conflict resolution skill set that I developed. So I see how I'm beginning to see how all the puzzle pieces fit together.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, similar with me, working as an engineer and the problem solving that I learned and thinking outside the box. I
Right.
mean, all of that has helped me, I feel like, be a better doctor than I would have
Absolutely.
otherwise. So,
And I mean, just on a little side note, I think, but it relates to what people are experiencing. I think in this AI age that we're in, with Chat GPT and all these things that people fear will replace will replace humans. I think that one of our most unique things as humans is the skills that we develop, kind of the art. So the art of conflict resolution, AI is not necessarily well equipped to do, and sort of the problem solving skills, like the thinking that's beyond just sort of rote knowledge, is really, I think, the skills that we need to invest in as humans, as opposed to just like, okay, let's learn this book knowledge, right?
right.
So I'm thankful for those soft skills that I've learned over the years.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And by the way, thank you to everyone who's watching. If you ever have any questions or comments at wherever you're watching from, and if we have time, we can get to some of those questions. And in the meantime, Dr. Lim, I would love to hear about how. So we kind of know about your interesting background of how you got into law and then into medicine. But tell us a little bit about what brought you to, I guess, working with Dr. McDougall and kind of following this path of more what we call now this lifestyle medicine or preventive medicine, reversing chronic disease through lifestyle. How did you get interested in that?
Yeah, great question. I went to a great med school, Boston University, and then came out to Santa Rosa for their family medicine residency program, another wonderful residency program. But I would say that despite 4 years of med school and 3 years of residency at a great family medicine program, the overall paradigm that I had for the care of patients really could be distilled down to one word, and that's management, right? So I was really taught how to manage chronic illness and manage conditions that my patients were coming in with. And that was all I knew. And so fast forward, I graduated residency 2013. And then in 2014, I was, managing patients at Kaiser, but it was the summer and I was watching PBS. And on comes Dr. Joel Furman, who I'd never heard of. I had never met, never heard his name despite 7 years of medical education. And he was making these outrageous claims about the power of something called a whole food plant based way of eating to not just prevent, but actually reverse chronic illnesses. Anything from high blood pressure to high cholesterol to even like autoimmune illnesses and prevention of things like breast cancer and prostate cancer. And he was talking in a way that I just had not heard before. It really sort of caught my attention. Uh, and then what I thought was also interesting is that the pictures that I was seeing on the screen for how you do this were beautiful photos of just this all different types of colors of fruits and vegetables and legumes and whole grains. Like it made so much sense. It wasn't something very complicated. There's something very appealing about it. But I thought, wow, that still sounds a little too good to be true. So I still remember it was summer of 2014, and after seeing that, my son was taking Chinese summer school in San Francisco. We live here in Santa Rosa, which is an hour north of San Francisco. So my wife and I were kind of tag teaming, going back and forth. So it was my turn to go to San Francisco. I picked him up from his summer school. I said, Joshua, we're going on a field trip. We're going to the San Francisco Public Library. And we went to it was like the, I don't know, third or fourth floor. I checked out Dr. Furman's book, Eat to Live. And that night, I basically like just devoured the book. I read it cover to cover. And I was so wowed by what the studies that I was reading and the results that he was getting with patients that I went online and came across Forks Over Knives. It was like 1:30, 2 a.m. in the morning. And I basically watched the whole documentary start to finish. And that was it. That was sort of like, there's various moments in your life, there are various conversion moments to, I like my moment of becoming Christian was my conversion moment at Harvard Law School, right? So this was my conversion moment to seeing the power of lifestyle medicine. The rest is history. From a couple months later, I went to the Plantrician conference in San Diego, and that's where I got to see Dr. McDougall and Dr. Dean Ornish and Dr. Greger, Dr. Esselstyn, Dr. T. Colin Campbell. I mean, Dr. Neil Barnard, just all the Dr. Scott Stoll, like all the titans in and pioneers in this movement. Um, and study after study. I still remember that was the conference that Dr. Greger showed me the study of reversal of diabetic neuropathy um, through a 20-day residential plant-based program. I was like, what? I've been throwing medication after medication for neuropathy and not getting barely any improvement. And here, 17 out of 21 diabetic neuropathic patients had reversal, complete 100% reversal in like 2 to 3 weeks. It's like, this is just mind blowing. Um, and one thing led to another. So I came back I was working at Kaiser at the time. I came back and um, started teaching a plant-based class that a cardiologist, Sandy Warren, had started, but he had retired. And so they needed a new doctor. And I was right there at the right time, picked that up. And it was funny. I had on my, we all have task lists of what we want to do. I had on my task list, go meet, like send some email or something to the McDougall program and TrueNorth to go visit, like,
Because you
because
knew they were in Santa
I knew
Rosa.
they were in Santa Rosa. I'm like, this is like a perfect fit. And it was like on my task list, like, like, ooh, let's just meet in person
Yeah.
and let them know of my interest. And lo and behold, 2015, I get an email from my mom, who is very into holistic medicine. She's a licensed acupuncturist, and she was thrilled with the sort of the new direction I was headed in with medicine. She never was a fan of pills and procedures, and she forwarded me this email from the McDougall program saying, looking for a staff physician to come on board for a joint position between TrueNorth Health Center and the McDougall program. And I'm like, you're like Bugs Bunny or something where your eyes just go, "Wah, wah, wah." I was like, what? You've
I
got
would
to
have
be
been the same.
kidding. I would like, oh my gosh, like a joint position at these two places. And my first thought was like, oh, there's no way. I mean, I'm like wet behind the ears. I've like just started, I've less than a year of experience under my belt in this area. There's no way. Like, but you got to throw your hat in the ring. And I applied and got a call that same week and met Dr. Goldhammer, and a couple days later met Dr. McDougall, and the rest is history. They hired me. So that was fall of 2015, and I haven't looked back since. They're both. I just have only positive things to say about both programs. I feel so privileged to have worked for both of them and continue to stay involved with the McDougall program, and stay in touch with Dr. Goldhammer at TrueNorth Health Center. But really seeing deep healing happening in conditions that you would never have imagined. So it's been an awesome journey.
Oh, I can't even imagine how wonderful that must have been to be able to be involved so quickly in your journey that way. Because I know that for me, as I was getting excited about it, it's it there aren't a lot of jobs out there that
No,
kind of fit the bill, right? That
right.
it's lifestyle medicine is still kind of up and coming, and so to find something that kind of a position is pretty incredible. Um, so before we talk, because I would love to hear a little bit about your experience working with Dr. McDougall, and of course working at True North, and kind of what you learned from that, kind of some interesting cases. But before we get to that, because this would have been in 2015, you said, and you and I actually met in 2016.
That's right.
So I want to talk a little bit about that because, this would have been when I was in my third year of medical school.
Wow.
And I know, still a youngin'. Uh, but I went into medicine because I was already interested in, what I didn't know was called at the time, but lifestyle medicine. Just definitely interested in more preventive and reversal of chronic disease using lifestyle changes. And so I decided to go back to do medical school so that I could be the kind of doctor I am today. And because of that, I knew that during my training, I wasn't going to be really getting lifestyle medicine training. I knew that that was kind of something that wasn't really in the curriculum, and I needed to find those, ways to educate myself on that. And so I started researching opportunities that I could take some of my electives that I was given in medical school and residency to try to find some of these programs where I could learn more. And I was already a huge fan of Dr. McDougall. In fact, when his book, The Starch Solution, came out, I'm pretty sure it came out around 2013. And I say that because that was the year that I started medical school. And I remember that when I read that book, I was so
Mm.
excited about it. I thought, this is it. This is what's going to help people understand why it makes so much sense. It's just common sense. And so that, sorry, I'm hearing a
Sorry,
phone. No, that's okay. I thought it was on my side.
my wife
But
and I share an office, so
okay.
my apologies.
No, it's okay. It's okay. And so, I, was already really interested in it. And so found this opportunity where Dr. McDougall was doing these live-in programs, these 10-day live-in programs in Santa Rosa, California. And he had a nonprofit attached that would pay for medical students to
Mm.
come and work with him. And I thought, oh,
Mm.
this is
Yeah.
amazing. And thankfully I got chosen to do that. And so that would have been, I think it was in the spring of 2016. So you hadn't been working with Dr. McDougall for very long
No.
when you and I met. Um, and so not only did I get to learn from Dr. McDougall, but I also got to learn from you.
Mm.
And I want to say that one of the things that I remember the most about what you taught me while I was there was I remember you saying, a lot of people look at Dr. McDougall like the all-knowing. He knows everything, and if you just follow what he says, you're going to be great. He
Mhm.
said, but as a doctor, you need to make sure that you agree. So
Mm.
if he says something, I want you to look up the study, look up the research that's out there, and then I want you to come to your own conclusion.
Mm.
And I thought that was so smart because I probably was on the McDougall train of just, whatever he says. So it was
Wow.
helpful to kind of have that insight of, hey, you need to start doing this yourself because, as a third year medical student, that is what you need to start doing is,
Hmm.
you're going to have people you look up to, but you've got to also do your own research and be able to do your own research and feel confident with, looking at that and coming to your own conclusions.
Wow. Thank you, Nikki. That was so powerful. I did. It's like a flashback down memory lane, and I don't know. It's something really neat to hear your own words echoed back to you from 10 years
Yeah,
from 10 years ago. And as
10
you said it,
years.
I'm like, wow, I really agree with that statement.
So
Um,
I'm telling the truth. I'm not
yeah,
just
I know you're
making it
telling the
up.
truth, and I was like, okay, good. I had gotten that even within a year of working there. Because yeah, I love Dr. McDougall. God bless him. He's such an invaluable mentor. But we didn't agree on everything, and so it actually really formed me as a physician because the things that I we his the lessons I learned from him in terms of telling the truth and simplicity and starches, like those are just bedrock things that will stay with me the rest of my life. But it also forced me to become my own physician, like with my own unique focus. Like, I mean, just one example, he didn't get into much around the emotions and emotional eating. That just was not really on his radar. It's not his strength, and he really didn't pay all that much attention to it. For me, wow, I mean, it was something I saw not only in my patients, the degree to which emotional eating affected their eating patterns. I saw it in myself, and I was like, you could give me all the truth and knowledge you want, but if we don't talk about how to handle your eating when you're super stressed out, or when you're depressed, or when you're anxious, or when you're lonely, or when you're angry, or when you're in social situations and it's like Friday night and you've had a long week, if we don't talk about that, we're really missing a big piece of the pie, or a big piece of the puzzle. And so I just said, I'm going to start in my own head. I'm like, I need to start talking about this with patients. And for many years I would give lectures on behavioral change and emotional eating. So that was an example. He never gave a lecture on that, but Heather, who's the CEO of the program, saw the importance of that, and so she let me lecture on that. And that's just one example, right? So it's like learn the key principles from these pioneers and titans, but also develop your own unique perspective and style and viewpoint. So that's great.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, in addition to me, getting to be a medical student with the McDougall program, uh, I also had the opportunity to intern at the TrueNorth Health Center, and I remember coming up and seeing you again while you were there.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
So
Yeah.
I don't know what that year would have been, but I'm guessing it was, well, actually, no, I do know it was 2020 because it was right as COVID was hitting. So it was
Oh,
the month of March of
wow.
2020.
Wow.
Yeah, it was an interesting time. But so now I was in my final year of residency and
Wow.
got to go and intern for a month at the TrueNorth Health Center and see what they do there and see the power of the water only fasting. And of course, they had delicious whole food plant-based meals there as
Mhm.
well. So tell me a little bit about that experience of
Oh,
being on staff there.
it was so great. I loved because True North and McDougall, even though they're in the same arena, they have very different focuses or foci, right? And so with True North, I was really introduced to the power of water fasting, which is something that's really stayed with me. In fact, on my when I turned 40 in 2017, my request to my wife was that for my birthday present, I wanted to do a water fast. And so I actually fasted for 7 days at True North. And that was, I mean, I'll never forget that experience. Is very powerful. Um, and then just seeing the effect of water fasting on the patients there was profound, and being able to be with them during that period. And then even the eating, even though it's plant based, it's sort of like on steroids, right? Because
Yeah.
it's no salt, no oil, and no sugar. And even though the McDougall program was no oil, they definitely allowed salt and sugar. Um, and those two ingredients make a big difference. Big,
They really do. Yeah.
big difference. Oh, and no bread. So and
Oh,
McDougall
yeah, that's
allowed bread,
true.
right? So those are
And
three.
really no pasta. I don't think they did pasta there.
No, no, not really. They sometimes did pasta, maybe made it out of like legumes or something, but
Yeah.
it was rare. And if they did, it was like it's like the
It was like the
hordes
best day
descended.
ever.
It was gone.
I still remember a soup that they served there that was a ramen kind of soup,
Okay.
but the noodles were these long mushrooms.
Oh wow.
I don't know if you
Wow.
ever had
I
that. It
don't
was an
think I ever
excellent
had
soup,
that. Yeah.
but it looked like noodle soup
That's
even though it was
fascinating.
mushrooms.
Wow. Okay. I thought you were gonna say zucchini noodles or something.
Oh, no, yeah, it was like
Yeah.
these mushrooms, and at the time, I thought, "I need to look these up because this is such a unique way to use mushrooms," and I don't
Right.
remember. I'm sure some people watching know what those mushrooms are called, but they do. They look like just really long noodles.
Yeah, fascinating. Yeah,
Yeah.
and so I really liked seeing kind of different slants on the plant-based way of eating, and not and getting a sense for myself that's not like there's one that's right and one that's wrong. It's sort of like understanding yourself, what you need at that time in your life, or and then moving in that direction. So I felt like I had different tools in my toolkit and could wield them as necessary, yeah, Doug Lyle, who talks a lot about the pleasure trap. And so I would just look, are patients falling into the pleasure trap in various areas? And if so, what is the intervention that's needed to kind of break them out of it? So I just felt like it was in this incredible education in a diverse set of modalities for bringing about healing and wellness.
Yeah. And if I remember right, when people would go through that live-in program with the Dr. McDougall program, that cases where people weren't quite doing, as good as they needed to, or they were still struggling at the end of the program, that Dr. McDougall would then refer them to go to the TrueNorth Health Center.
Yeah, it was kind of a running joke that he would threaten patients that if you don't do well on the McDougall diet, then I'm sending you to True North. That's the
Where you
running
can't
joke.
eat.
Yeah,
Instead
where
of
you
getting like
can't
free
eat.
servings. Yeah.
But in all seriousness, like, yeah, I think he would see sometimes, if let's just take a typical example. Patient is doing the McDougall program really well, has lost a bunch of weight, but their blood pressure is still elevated. Maybe not as high as it was, but it's still in the 140s over 90s. And even though they're not on meds, they're still a little uncomfortable with it being that high. That might be a perfect candidate to go to True North, do like a 10-day water fast, like really break that, because yeah, that is the one thing that you would see routinely. People come in, whatever blood pressure they have, would just it would
Yeah.
it would come back down to less than 120 over 80. And the beautiful thing is that it would stay that way even when they went back to eating, as long as they, you know, essentially stuck with the program and
Yeah.
stuck with a healthy way of eating. And that was really remarkable. So he certainly would send patients that were refractory to the McDougall diet over there, or certain patients with autoimmune illnesses.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so it's nice having both of those institutions, in my corner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, around the corner from each other.
Yes.
And I do remember when I was as a medical student with the McDougall program, I remember a patient who had, I think it was ulcerative colitis. I don't think it was Crohn's. I think it was ulcerative colitis. And, she was still having kind of a flare up and not doing great at the end of the program. Not that she was getting worse, but she still needed help.
Right.
And she wasn't ready to go home because she was still wanting to put this into remission. And so then that was a case in which she did go over to True North, and then she did go into remission and did really well. And she was one of the star McDougallers. Because I remember her being in the program, and then, a couple of years later, seeing one of the star McDougaller newsletters, I thought, oh, that's so and so. I remember
Yeah.
seeing her. I'm so glad that she ended up doing really well. So,
Are you
sometimes
thinking of
people just need
Gabrielle?
to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean,
Exactly.
I'm using her name because she's public about it.
Yep.
So
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah, she really sticks out in my mind,
Yeah.
because that was a beautiful example of both programs working well
Yeah.
together. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
Exactly.
curious, what was you had a glimpse of both programs yourself, Nikki. So, like, what was, sort of your observation of your experience at True North after having been to McDougall?
Yeah. I mean, it was the same. I think getting to see the power of the water fasting,
Hmm.
and also, I think a big thing that I saw and learned was that there is it can be so beneficial, but that it also is something that needs to be medically supervised.
Right.
Right. And
Yes.
so it definitely got me to the point where I said, well, this can be very beneficial for people. However, it needs to be done safely.
Yeah.
So I really learned how to recommend this to people, whether it's having them actually go to True North, or if they're going to do any kind of fasting at home, really limiting it to maybe a day, two at the most. I don't know what you recommend to people, but I
Yeah.
don't like to see people doing water only fasting without it really being medically
Yeah,
supervised more than a
I'd
day or
agree with
so.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
nice.
Because they had all the equipment there to be able to check, like, I mean, they had an EKG machine and,
Yeah,
um, just to make sure that, they're checking labs and urine and, just
yeah,
making sure that people are safe. I mean, they've got doctors on site 24/7. And so really making sure that people are safe while they're doing it. And so that was one thing, is just making sure that people are doing this safely.
absolutely. Yeah, that's critically important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then also on top of that, of course, seeing these incredible improvements in people, like you said, and it's all, the chronic lifestyle related diseases that you're just seeing just go away as people stop eating. And so then it's, boy, this really is food related, because what they're doing is just not eating right now. And all of a sudden their blood pressure is normal and their blood sugar is normal. And, their joints aren't hurting as much, and
Yeah.
they're losing weight and they're
Yeah.
feeling better. And then on top of that, so they're in this program where they're getting to have this oversight and see these improvements. And then you're getting all the education at the same time.
Hmm.
So I really, really loved being there for that month at True North. And then the McDougall program was fantastic because you get to see what it's like for people to eat, right?
Hmm.
Because at True North, for the most part, people are doing the water only fasting.
Hmm.
There are people that go there that just basically eat the food and still see improvements, of course.
Hmm.
But with the McDougall program, the thing that was kind of eye opening to me was that you had a buffet of food. I mean, a huge amount of food
Yeah.
every day. And there were people going through the line, putting everything on their plate. They'd eat that plate and then they go back and get another plate.
Yeah.
And we were still seeing incredible improvements in people. So it was, you had this ability to basically eat as much as you
As
wanted
much as
until
you
you were
wanted.
full
Right.
and still see really great improvements.
Yeah.
Um, and the big thing with working with Dr. McDougall was, he really instilled in me, you know, trusting in the process and making sure that you're watching the medications based on what will happen,
Hmm.
not just what you're seeing in the moment, but preparing for that. So, for instance, in someone who's on a lot of insulin for diabetes, we expect their blood sugar to improve pretty quickly on the McDougall diet. And so you've got to start decreasing that insulin or taking it off the insulin right away. We can always add it back. But I
Hmm.
think that was one of the big things, is just really planning ahead for especially blood sugar and blood pressure.
Yeah. Yep. I'd agree with all of that. Nice.
Yeah.
It's so fun going
So
back down memory lane.
I know, so much fun.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed my time in Santa Rosa. I'm always jealous of you and Dr. Pierce, and um, I just that you guys get to be in that location.
Yeah.
And
Who would guess Santa Rosa would be this little mini mecca of healthy plant-based eating and lifestyle? It's awesome.
yeah, it really
Yeah.
is. So do you have any I don't know, any cases, with you doing this for how long you have, working with the McDougall program, anything that stands out, a case or two that were incredibly impactful for you?
Well, I mean, I was just like I remember one I remember one gentleman in his I think his 40s, and this was when we were working with Whole Foods um, market, and he came in on I think about 180 units of insulin a day. It was just this heroic amount. Morbidly obese, hypertensive on multiple meds, and this was the residential McDougall program. And by the end, he wasn't off all insulin, but by the end, he was only on long-acting insulin, so we were able to take him off all of his short-acting insulin, and got his long-acting insulin down to I think between 30 to 40 units, with blood sugars that were better than when he came in on the 180 units. It was just this I mean, it was just mind blowing to me. I was like, what? Like, we've cut out 150 units of insulin with better blood glucose control. and here's the kicker: is just as you said, Nikki, is eating as like going through the buffet line once or twice, and like no restrictions on the size of your portions, and no um, you can eat this, you can't eat that. It's like, look, here's your spread. Go to it, enjoy. Like that. I mean, that's just something that, like I said, in 7 years of medical training, I just hadn't seen that. The closest that you would see to something like that happening would be someone who underwent like gastric bypass surgery, you know, um,
Right.
did something incredibly radical that would come with its own set of side effects. Because meanwhile, I've seen so many gastric bypass patients who have blown through their surgery and ended up like, regaining a lot of the weight because you didn't change their behaviors. Right?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so he's one that sticks out for me. And then another one was from CenturyLink, uh, and he was able. I just remember he was. I can't remember what, but I mean, he basically came on like 4 or 5 medications for high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and maybe like metformin for prediabetes. Um, and I worked with him for a number of years. And what was fascinating about him is that, his first initial phase, he was able to get off all his meds and lose a significant amount of weight to the point that he was overweight, but not obese. Um, and his belt size was much lower. He was really happy, but he wanted more. He wanted to keep going. And so we worked with him and just cleaned up his diet. Like he was eating plant-based, but he would be doing things like going to Chick-fil-A and getting the bun with the lettuce and tomato and still like the pink sauce or whatever it is, or In and Out,
Yeah.
just with no meat, and or going to Chipotle and ordering certain things from there. And so it's just fascinating being able to work with him and be able to take what was already a significant improvement and showing him, okay, look, if you really want to keep going and take it to the next level, then we've got to take the frequency with which you're eating out and help you see that these buns and this pink sauce and this food from Chipotle is not your ideal food. And if you want, you've kind of hit this plateau. And if you don't help patients when they're in a plateau, they're very likely to get discouraged
Yeah.
and they can start to slide. It's like a slippery slope going down. So being able to meet him in that place and then say, oh, take it to the next level and let's start walking every day after your meals. And just, we made like 4 or 5 simple changes. What I remember, another change we made is that he was eating dry cereal every morning, like grape nuts. And I said, if you could change that to oatmeal, and that's a whole nother lecture on calorie density, right? Then you're taking the average calorie density of your grape nuts, which is probably going to be around 1,600 calories per pound. And instead oatmeal, 300 calories per pound. It may not, they both are healthy plant-based options, but one is much more calorically dense. It's going to make a big difference in the long run.
Yeah.
And we made these 4 or 5 different changes. And within like 3, 4 weeks, he had dropped 15, 20 pounds. Um, and his belt size was even lower. He had broken into the normal weight category. And he was just thrilled. So I really like this idea that no matter where a patient is at, there's there's always room to improve.
Yeah.
Not necessarily in eating, but when you start to look at lifestyle medicine as your entire lifestyle from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed and everything you dream in between, the entirety of your life, everything you think, everything you say, and everything you do, then to me, lifestyle medicine becomes a very fascinating thing because unless you're one of those people where you're like, oh, I've reached nirvana, there's really nothing left for me to grow or learn or change about myself. And if you meet that person, let me know. I need to fly to go meet them. Then it just means that really what this life is about is just the journey of continually growing and expanding and becoming healthier and learning and doing and reflecting and relearning and you know what I mean? Um, and so I do that with myself. I journal. I was just reflecting on last night where I ate more than I would have liked and felt heavy going to bed, and I just thought about it, and it was a social occasion, and just kind of like, isn't that interesting? With social occasions, I really kind of let myself go a little. I drift a bit and just sort of reflecting on that, like, and I don't know what the next social occasion is going to be, but I know that something's kind of stuck with me. Like, okay, all it's going to take is before I enter that social occasion, just have a little more intentionality. Like, realize that your guard's going to be down a bit. There's that part of your brain that's going to be like, oh, this is a special occasion. Just let yourself go. But that you're going to pay the price after. Because I was paying the price at 10 p.m. I was like, oh, man, lying in the horizontal position doesn't feel good. But rather than get down on myself or get hard, like beat up on, it's like, oh, awesome. Like, it's so good that you learned this, Anthony. Let's incorporate this next time around. And I'm like, I'm the one telling patients how to do this, and here I am still grappling. And that's it. We all are, right?
Yep,
We're all sort of dealing with
absolutely.
our own stuff. So that patient sticks out in my mind because I just like this idea of iterations and sequential growth, and getting closer and closer to ultimately what I see as a life that is as aligned as possible. That what you envision as where you want to be and what you want to be doing and how you want to be doing it, that you're actually seeing that play out in real life. And there's very little deviation. Whereas my experience talking with patients is they have all these ideas of what they ought to be doing and where they should be and what they want to be doing. And then their life looks like this.
Yeah.
and yeah, and so kind of helping them first off to see that, and then to start to take small steps towards bringing it like this. And then if they have a day that's like this, not having them go, fall off the wagon and start to go this way, but instead be like, oh, that's okay, let's just get back to here tomorrow, right? And so that's what I did, this morning. Even though I had my bigger meal yesterday, I got up, a healthy breakfast, did my CrossFit this morning, showered, I'm like back on track, and
Yeah.
that's what it's like.
And that's real,
Yeah.
right? That's where the importance of this honesty in, all of the people out there that are kind of, talking about the same thing with lifestyle medicine and the whole food plant-based diet is just, what is it like to actually do this in real life?
Right.
And I think it's so important that we have those conversations. So I really appreciate you sharing something like that, because that really is where you can go one or two ways. You can feel shame and guilt and feel horrible, not only physically but mentally, after maybe eating a little bit more than you would have liked. And that can cause you to say, I'm horrible at this, I'm failing, and why even try? And then the next day looks horrible, right?
Yeah.
Or you can say, huh, okay, I don't feel great, and here's why. I'm reflecting on what tonight looked like and what could I do differently next time that would maybe allow me to not have to feel this way again, or as often. And
100.
then you're just going back to what makes you feel best the next day.
Yep. It's not complicated.
Right.
It's not complicated. It's very simple, but it's not easy. All right. And that's what I've been saying to patients for a long time. That the principles that we're going to talk about, really, I could talk to a second grader about, and they could understand. So there's really, I mean, we could get really complicated, but it's not necessary for you to know what you need to do. But just don't be fooled. It's not easy, because life happens and life gets in the way, and your old behaviors and old habits and old patterns and social pressures and influences and physical, I mean, right, our food environment, our sedentary environment. Like, there's so many things that are kind of working against these simple principles. So I think if people can be in that humble space and not looking for the magic bullet, like, this is the one thing, and if I do this one thing, then everything else is gonna, like, magically. And that was the one thing I actually would sort of really caution people about the water fast. As
Yeah,
much as I love the water fast, they would honestly look at it as if this was going to save their life, like that they wouldn't have to do anything if they just did this water fast. And I would really caution them against that. I'll say, no, no, this water fast is a reset. It's a tool. It's a way to kind of get you back on track. It is not the salvific force. Like,
yeah,
if you put all of that on that, I saw many that would do well and then they would relapse, and
right.
I saw plenty of that. So it's just kind of perspective is critically important.
Yeah, yeah. Well, okay, so now present day, you and I get to work together again, which
Yay!
is awesome. I mean, it's all full circle, right?
Yeah,
So,
I know.
we were so excited. I mean, unfortunately, with the passing of Dr. McDougall, um, the program changed a little bit because, of course, there's that gap of where he
Mhm.
he used to be with part of the program. And so then you were kind of on your own as a doctor of the program. And now, because lifestyle telemedicine has become kind of the physicians of the program,
Mhm.
we were so happy to have you join us so that you could not only continue to do the kind of work that you want to do, but also continue to help out with the McDougall program. And now we have doctors, lots of doctors that people can choose from when
Yes.
they do the McDougall program. And, we have licenses in all 50 states and DC and internationally. So no matter where people are from, they can see one of our doctors and go through the program and get help with those things that like getting lab work and if they need prescription changes and things like that, we can help out with all of that.
Mhm.
So it's really exciting that you get to continue to work with the McDougall program in that way, and
Yeah.
then you get to work with us. So
Yes.
um, why don't you tell us a little bit about kind of uh, what your ideal patient is at this point? Who do you like to work with the most, and who do you think would benefit from your expertise as far as
Oh, wow.
patients go?
That's a great question. Well, so it's been interesting. I think uh, uh, patients who know me well is where it gets kind of personal, but I've always been comfortable sharing that openly. So patients who know me well know about just how central my Christian faith is in my life. And I mentioned that I accepted Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior as a second year law student at Harvard Law School when was arguably at the pinnacle of worldly success. I'm at the top, one of the top law schools in the nation, with a six-figure salary offer from Irel in Manila in Newport Beach. After I graduate, it's sort of like, oh, what more could you ask for? And yet, I didn't feel like law was the right fit for me, and I had just been groomed all the way up until that point, like, not intentionally, but it just was. I mean, I don't blame anyone. It was just what I just defined myself by my career, by what I achieved. That was my identity. And so you can imagine what a crisis this is for someone who is at the pinnacle of worldly success and basically is like, I don't want to go this track. And then asking, well, who am I then? And I remember at that moment, I was so ashamed of myself that I didn't feel like I could even tell my parents that I didn't want to be a lawyer. I didn't feel like I could tell my brother, who was my best friend, and we were each other's best man. And I didn't feel like I could tell my girlfriend, who is now my wife of 23 years and sitting in the office right here as we speak. Of course, I could have told all of them, but it gives you a glimpse into how tied in my identity was to what I achieved. And if that was crumbling, then this sense of like I'm nothing. And it was at that moment that I didn't feel like I could tell anyone. And I had been kind of searching for a lot for religion this whole period, that I finally is like, oh, like in this moment, because the whole message of Christianity is one of unconditional love, like, which I kind of knew rationally, but I didn't understand emotionally. And it was at that moment that I was like, oh, Jesus sees me in this pathetic, miserable state as I am this moment. And he still, like, he sees me completely with no BS, and he loves me. And I was just like, I was undone. I couldn't imagine that. I'm like, that's something incredible. Like that's a more powerful concept than anything I've come across in all my studies. And I was like, I don't fully understand this at a rational level, but it's so compelling that I'm going to give my life to it. And I literally, as that year is the year before we got married, is 2003. I just got on my knees and said, Lord, I accept you as my Lord and Savior. That was 2003. That was 23 years ago. And if I'm just being honest, plant-based eating, lifestyle medicine, all of this is great, but it pales in comparison to the transformative effect that my faith has had on my life and the way I think and the way I operate in the world. It has changed me at such a deep internal level in terms of my priorities, my relationship with anxiety and depression, my relationship with others, my relationship with my patients, that the more I've kind of been traveling along life, I just think that really needs to be front and center for me. And I don't see a lot of doctors that talk about faith or religion in I mean publicly or necessarily even with patients. But when I talk to patients, I see this deep spiritual need. I mean, many of them are dealing with these existential crises that they don't know how to cope with, whether it's the news or AI or a divorce or a health issue and living by themselves or what you name it. Like some big thing has come across their life and they don't have something to hang on to anchor them that allows them to cope with it. And so I have found that the more that I can bring what is most deeply personal and transformative to me into my conversations with patients, that is where I'm feel most fulfilled and where I find the greatest meaning. So I would say that patients that want, it doesn't have to be Christian, but just patients that feel like spirituality is important to their health and are open to having conversations around it, regardless of one's religious persuasion. I've talked to Buddhists and Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints or Mormons, Seventh-day Adventists, Hindu, nature lovers, but it's just this sense of like something beyond themselves, like something greater, something outside like that. That's my favorite kind of conversation because in part because I've seen the impact that that's had on my eating, how I exercise, like everything. It's sort of like the center, and then every behavior is an outspoke of that, like a spoke of that. And so that's
Yeah.
that's my favorite. And to that end, it's funny, I start a job, as you know, Nikki, I start a job on Monday. I've been volunteering at Redwood Gospel Mission, which is a Christian organization that works with the homeless here in Santa Rosa. Santa Rosa has just been a mecca for me in terms of all my interests. And I've been volunteering there over the last 6 months, ever since coming back from a missions trip to Kenya that just was transformative for me. And I've absolutely loved volunteering with these guys in a program called their New Life program, which is a residential 10 to 18-month program for men in recovery. They're coming from prison. They're coming from mainly from prison or jail and from the streets. And almost 100% of them have some sort of addiction issue, whether it's a drug issue or an alcohol issue. And I've absolutely loved it. I feel like I'm bringing all my lifestyle medicine to a setting where I get to bring my faith too. So I'm praying with these guys. I'm singing. I've been playing guitar. I don't even know how to play guitar, but I've been learning how to play guitar and doing worship with them. We've been sitting in circles and like processing arguments that they're having with each other and conflict. So I'm using my conflict resolution skills. I've been doing a series of lectures on nutrition and movement and stress and sleep, these things that they like, we've never gotten a lecture on this. I took 12 guys on a 5-mile hike in Annandale this past weekend, and we jumped in the lake, and many of them had not been out to nature. They're like, oh my gosh, there's a turkey, or oh my God, they were so excited. They were like little boys. And the age range of guys in this group is from 20 to age 76. I mean, it's
Wow.
widespread. Got African American, Latino, Asian, white. I mean, it's like the United Nations there, so it's really diverse, and I get to bring all of myself. It's a Christian-based program, and so I was so moved by it that I looked into part-time work, and so I'm starting, Monday working within the New Life program and just kind of exploring it. Like, God, is this where you're drawing me to? Because I've sort of reached that point in my life that is, I don't really care how much something pays. If it's where God is drawing me, then that's where I want to be.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a long story, but I think it kind of gives you, for patients that resonate with that story, then great, we're a great fit. And for patients who don't, then that's okay. That's the beauty of lifestyle telemed. You'll be able to find
Yeah.
doctors of all different persuasions and backgrounds. But
Exactly.
yeah,
Well, thank
that's
you
why.
so much for sharing that. And
Yeah.
remind me, Dr. Lim, you are licensed in California and you can see patients through lifestyle telemedicine as long as they do not have Medicare. Is that right?
Yes. Yep. So
Okay.
licensed in California, and as long as they don't have Medicare, then
Okay.
I'm able to see them.
Great. So that's where you would go to look up Dr. Lim. And then we do have a couple of questions that came in. I know we've just got a couple of minutes left, so
Yeah.
we can try to see if we can get through. So we've got this one from Carol. Thank you for the conversation. Do you have any advice for an RN who is starting a DNP program this fall? Her goal is to be able to teach about whole food, plant-based lifestyle.
I think that the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, are you board certified by them?
I am. Yeah.
Yeah. So both Dr. Davis and I are board certified, and they're just a wonderful organization of nurses and doctors and physical therapists and registered dietitians and occupational therapists, just multi-specialty, multidisciplinary organization that focuses on lifestyle medicine with a ton of resources. They've got an annual conference. They have continuing education. So I just think you would, uh, Carol, you would love getting involved with them and plugging into their offerings. And they would certainly, they have all sorts of, I don't know what support groups or just different interest
Yeah.
groups. They have all
Yes.
sorts of different interest groups. So I think that if your goal is to be able to teach about whole food plant-based lifestyle, that would be a great place to start.
Yep. I would totally agree with that. And then she has another question here. Is it helpful to track food and pre-plan for the next day?
That's funny. That's because that was just one of the things I was thinking about yesterday. I think that it can be. I think that, I mean, let's say in my ideal world, I don't necessarily want to have to pre-plan every meal, but I think it can be a helpful exercise, just to sort of notice patterns and to be intentional about what you eat. I've been lately in my life, I've been sort of noticing what percentage or how much of my life is due to drift. Like I'm just reacting to what's before me and reacting to what time I wake up and reacting to what time I feel sleepy. And that's fine, but I feel like it blunts the edges. And so I think that when you start to be very intentional, like that can be a helpful exercise, and you start to maybe live in greater alignment. So as long as you don't become sort of obsessive about it and sort of, like, because some people can become imprisoned by their food plans and their tracking, and it starts to become more of like a like this weight. But if you can sort of use it as a tool for gaining greater alignment, I think that could be perfect. um I'll just add one more thing. Like, one thing lately that I'm doing is trying to just eat 3 meals rather than snack in between. And so being intentional about what I eat each meal makes it less likely than that I'm going to have those pangs in between. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
it could be great.
Fantastic. Thank you. All right. And I did want to mention, of course, we've got lifestyle telemedicine where you can, uh, you know, find out a little bit more about Dr. Lim and book an appointment with him if you'd like. But we also work with the McDougall program together. So there is a 12-day program coming up this month. It starts on April 17th. And so if you want to work with one of our doctors, including me or Dr. Lim, that's an excellent immersion program. I mean, truly, it is very immersive. It is a lot. It's 12 days that are packed full, and you get incredible support. So highly recommend that.
Absolutely.
Um, but yeah, so anyway, thank you so much, Dr. Lim, for being with us today. It's been really great for me to just kind of catch up with you again
Yeah.
and just kind of go back through like your entire journey of, what you've done with your career and how you've gotten to where you are today. And it's just really, really incredible to see, what you're doing and how you're following your passions and what you
Oh,
love to do.
thank you, Nikki. I really appreciate it. This was fun. Yeah. Thanks so much for
Yeah.
arranging it. It's great.
Yeah, no problem. All right. And, if you have not met with one of our doctors, now's the time. So go to lifestyletelemedicine.com and you can put in there your state, put in there whether or not you have Medicare, and it will show you the doctors that you can choose from. And it might just be one, but it could be a few of us, depending on where you live. If you're in California, you got lots of options. New Jersey, maybe not so many. So it really kind of depends that way. And you can also give us a call. So if you want to talk to Susan, who's our patient care coordinator, she's fantastic, and she can help walk you through the process of figuring out what kind of appointment makes the most sense for you. Do you want to have an assessment done that includes labs or not? Do you want to just have a 1 hour appointment with your doctor? She can help you navigate all of that, get you set up on our portal, and all of those things. So again, we would love to see you. So please visit us at lifestyletelemedicine.com. And thank you again, Dr. Lim, for joining us. Until next time, I'm Dr. Nikki Davis with Lifestyle Telemedicine. Thank you, everyone, for watching.